I've been taking a little bit of a break from this because it's been such a constant in my life for a while, but there are a number of things that I want to explore before I make this a more intermittent thing. And the one I want to look at now is the fact that everybody is different. Everybody dies or wants to die differently. And I'm not talking about what they're dying of. I'm talking about how they choose to approach it, what's important to them, what they need or what they want, and so on. So one of the reasons that this has come up is that the hospice raised this issue with me repeatedly, really. It seems as if that's a very significant part of their training. They're extremely good at putting the needs of the individual at the top of their priority list. And in order to ascertain those needs, they need to ask questions. Now, obviously, there is the physical illness that the person has, which is going to bring about their death, and there are practical things that they have to do in order to help the person to die in as comfortable and as acceptable way for them as possible. But I'm not even talking about that. That's kind of more nursing and medical needs, like, dealing with pain or that kind of thing. But the fact that when we're dying, each of us have ways that are important to us, things that matter. And one of the things that they did at the hospice was they asked lots and lots of questions. Now, in the situation that we were in, they had to ask me the questions rather than my mother, because though she was hugely endearing and pleasant, she wasn't really in a position to know the answers, so they needed somebody who had those answers, and fortunately they had somebody. So they questioned me an awful lot. They questioned me about what she used to be like, what sort of things she liked and wanted, what was important to her, and so on and so forth. And I could talk to her anyway. We understood each other to such a degree that I could ask her questions in a variety of different ways in order to work out what she really did want. So, for example, I needed to find out from her what she needed to do before she died, but also how she wished to die. In other words, whether she wanted me or anyone else present or not, rather than insisting on what I wanted. I mean, as far as I was concerned, she was the one that was dying. I was just the one who was accompanying her as best I could. It was her death, not my death. I call the shots when it's mine, if I'm lucky enough to do so. It's not for me to tell her whether she should or shouldn't go, and how she should or shouldn't go. And the hospice also asked lots of questions, for example, about how she might wish to be treated as she was dying or after she had died, whether she wanted any spiritual input or not, the sort of people that she wanted present. And they would ask quite specific questions, but they would respect the answers. Clearly each of them had their own ideal. It was quite clear what each of them would have liked from what they said, but they were still questions. They still did not impose, apologies for my webcam, which is misbehaving dreadfully, they did not impose what they wanted upon me, or upon my mother, or upon any of us who were taking this journey with her. So I think that's an important element to consider when someone close to you is dying. Obviously we can't always do what they want. It's good to be able to respect somebody's wishes as best as we're able, but it's also important to acknowledge we can't always. For example, they were talking about moving my mother on to a nursing home simply because they can't, sadly, they used to keep someone in a hospice indefinitely, and she seemed to be levelling off. So I had to tell her that that was a possibility. I knew she wouldn't cope with it, that she would probably have died of distress and anguish and fear, rather than the way she did die, which was very quietly and peacefully and painlessly and comfortably. But she knew that that was a possibility, that she may be moved. So really a lot of it is about questioning and about informing, because once you are in the hands of death, so to speak, you need someone often to advocate for you. You can't do it yourself. You don't have the strength, you don't have the wherewithal. If you're lucky, your mind is still active, or you're able to communicate in that way, but often you can't. So something to bear in mind if anyone close to you is dying, that every single person will have their own way to die, and really if you're helping them to do that, you're accompanying them, your job is to find out and then deal with your response to that yourself and not impose it upon them.